what does it really mean for a player to have championship DNA? Early career success, consistent trophies, accolades that stack up against the grades. What about putting a team on your back, living up to every bit of hype as the first overall pick, and reviving a franchise that had only made the playoffs once in the 16 years prior to you joining the team? The only thing Anthony Edwards is missing at the age of 23 is a ring, but otherwise, the T-Wolves star has been on an unstoppable upward trajectory. Today, we're going to look at how Ant-Man has been on a mission since he came into the league and won't stop until the confetti comes raining down. While he may not have tasted glory in the NBA just yet, Anthony Edwards is no stranger to silverware. The Atlanta native had a highly decorated high school career after transferring from Thorell to Holy Spirit Prep on the north side of town. In his first full year as a Cougar, Edwards led Holy Spirit Prep to a Georgia Independent School Association state championship. As a senior, Ant averaged 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 assists per game en route to a second consecutive state championship appearance against the same team they had defeated in 2018. Posting a valiant 27 points in the loss. Those kinds of performances saw his stock soar in recruiting circles. The 5-star, top-ranked prospect in the nation was unsurprisingly named a McDonald's All-American. Ant committed to his hometown Georgia Bulldogs with the goal of putting UGA basketball back on the map. Moreover, he'd be joining forces with Tom Crean, a winning coach who helped mold legends like Dwayne Wade and Victor Oladipo in college. After winning it all in high school, but ending his time at Holy Spirit Prep on a bitter note, it would be fascinating to see if the #1 recruit in the 2019 class could make an immediate impact in college. Ant had reclassified twice at Holy Spirit, demonstrating a history of rising to the occasion that would serve him well in Athens. He started off hot, dropping 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 steals in his debut, the best freshman performance in the black and red since the great Dominique Wilkins. It turned out this was a sign of things to come. While the team around him wasn't able to shake the perception of belonging to a football school, going 5-13 in conference play, Ant was the team's leading scorer, averaging 19.1 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 2.8 assists per game as a freshman. What was most remarkable was how Edwards routinely stepped up against the toughest of opposition in SEC play, dropping 36 on South Carolina, 32 on Florida, and 23 on Kentucky. There was no doubt about it. Anthony Edwards was a man for the big moments. He would finally get a chance to play for a trophy in the SEC tournament, as the Bulldogs downed Ole Miss in the first round. Their dwindling March Madness dreams were crushed when a rematch against Florida was suspended and eventually abandoned altogether following the onset of the COVID pandemic. Turns out, there would be no tournaments for anyone, no trophy for Ant. Instead, something much bigger was looming on the horizon. You see, Edwards' tremendous individual performances had earned him the SEC Rookie of the Year award and second-team All-SEC honors. His scoring prowess, athleticism, and ability to swing a game on his own was near inconceivable for an 18-year-old and saw him ranked as the top prospect on most NBA draft boards. The Minnesota Timberwolves were picking first, and of course, selected the shooting guard out of Georgia. Once again, Ant had risen to the top, beginning a new chapter on his quest for greatness. Still yet to avenge his senior year state championship loss, the rookie's odds of adding to his personal trophy cabinet looked slim to none upon arriving in Minneapolis. The Wolves fully earned their spot at the top of the draft order with the second worst record in the league during the 2019-20 season. The team had just traded a disappointing former first overall pick in Andrew Wiggins to the Warriors for point guard D'Angelo Russell. Alongside an emergent Karl Anthony Towns, there was certainly something cooking in the Twin Cities, and Ant fit right in with an exciting core of talent as an ever-present scoring threat. He still had work to do before he could reasonably dream of capturing another trophy. Ant's lapses on the defensive side of the ball, shooting inefficiency, and questions around his attitude had to be answered first and foremost. Ant opened his NBA account with a tidy 15 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in an opening day win over Detroit, and remained a consistent scorer for a struggling Timberwolves team. By March, he was catching fire, dropping a notable 42 points on Phoenix to become the 3rd youngest player to score 40-plus points in league history. Edwards averaged 19.3 points, 2.9 assists, and 4.7 rebounds per game on the season, which was good enough to earn him All-Rookie First-Team honors and a runner-up finish for the prestigious Rookie of the Year award. It was tough to stand out on a team that went 23-49, with a mid-season coaching change providing too little, too late. The entire team looked better under Chris Finch though, and would finally get back to winning ways in the 2021-22 season. With fans coming back to arenas, Ant stepped up his game in order to successfully avoid a sophomore slump. He not only became a more efficient shooter, averaging 44.1% from the field as opposed to 41.7% the year prior, but was also becoming a more mature playmaker, averaging nearly an assist per game more than he had in his rookie year. Slowly but surely, Ant was plugging the holes in his game, early signs of a champion. Ant also dropped 36 points at Memphis in his playoff debut to go along with 6 assists and 2 rebounds in a shock win, proving once again that he never shies away from big moments. Although the Wolves were eventually downed in 6, Edwards' elite showings in crunch time were indications of the 20-year-old's pedigree. His upward trajectory continued into year 3, becoming the team's leading scorer, averaging 24.6 points per game with improvements across the board. 4.4 assists and a career-high 5.8 rebounds per game made him a threat to any opponent, and helped Minnesota to its first back-to-back playoff appearances in nearly 2 decades. Edwards was justly awarded with his first All-Star selection. For a franchise accustomed to mediocrity and underachievement, Ant's arrival on the scene had clearly provided a much-needed shakeup. There was little that could be done to stop the eventual champion Denver Nuggets, who performed a gentleman's sweep of the Wolves in the first round. But that doesn't mean Ant didn't put up a fight. In Game 2, he set a franchise record for points in a playoff game with 41, averaging 31 across the entire series. Needless to say, Ant and the Wolves were inching closer and closer to glory, and entering year 4, something big was on its way. From an individual standpoint, Edwards took arguably the biggest single-year leap of his career in the 2023 offseason, coming back with even sharper playmaking instincts that gelled perfectly with his teammates to lead the Wolves to a 56-26 record, the second best in franchise history. Ant-Man had the first 50-point game of his career against Washington in April, shooting 46.1% from the field, the best conversion rate of his career. His 5.1 assists per game and 25.9 points were also a personal best. Hell, he was even hitting 10% more of his free throws than he had the previous year. The 22-year-old was evolving right in front of our eyes. He was developing into the player that many had only hoped he could become when he declared for the draft back in 2020. As the face of the team, alongside prolific bigs in Karl-Anthony Towns and Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert, Minnesota's mettle would truly be tested come April. Ant now had plenty of league-wide recognition. He earned second-team All-NBA honors, finished 7th in MVP voting, and 8th in Clutch Player of the Year voting. That last one became most apparent when the playoffs rolled around, as Edwards outdueled his childhood hero Kevin Durant in a merciless sweep of the Suns, capping it off with a 40-point outing in Game 4. Revenge was on the table in the conference semis, where Ant-Man willed the Wolves to victory with 43 points in Game 1 at Denver. The series was back and forth, requiring the full 7 games to decide a winner, with Edwards setting the tone not only with his scoring, but also his defensive contributions to see Minnesota through to their first conference finals in 20 years. But that was precisely where the fun would end, as the Mavs' elite defense was able to fluster Ant, to the point where he uncharacteristically failed to break the 30-point mark once in the 5-game series. Despite the disappointment, Ant's impact on the Wolves' playoff fortunes was clear to see. He was that guy. And entering year 5 at only 23 years old, things were only going to get better for Wolves fans in the years ahead. In the summer of 2024, Edwards finally got his first taste of professional hardware in Paris as part of Team USA's Olympic squad. As the youngest player on a roster that included greats like LeBron, Steph, and KD, the youngster absorbed all of the wisdom and advice he possibly could from the veterans, which manifested early and often. At the Olympics, Edwards shot 58% from the field, far and away his best as a pro. That translated to his regular season play when he got back to Minnesota, leading the league in 3-point scoring with 320 made in the 2024-25 campaign. He set a new career high with 53 points in a game against the Pistons, with markedly improved court vision making him less susceptible to double teams and the tight defense that had caused his struggles against Dallas the year prior. He helped the Wolves secure a 4th consecutive playoff berth in the process. This time around, in the ever-challenging West, Minnesota had to handle a Lakers team that had just acquired Luka Doncic in a trade that made them favorites to win it all. But as you would expect, Ant was completely unfazed, happy to play the villain. Instead of Lakers in 5, it was the Wolves in 5, as an undaunted Edwards humbled LA. A 43-point, 9-assist, and 5-rebound outing in Game 4 was certainly one to remember, as an indicator of just how well-rounded Edwards' game had become. Not only was he a prolific scorer, but an efficient facilitator with the ball in his hands, something which certainly could not be said of him in his early career. That kind of improvement is a hallmark of great players, and proof of his hunger for an NBA trophy. Another gentleman's sweep followed in the conference semis against Golden State, capped off by a 22-point, 12-assist, and 7-rebound game in Minneapolis to send the Wolves on to yet another conference finals. Although this is where they came short against a high-flying OKC team, Edwards won't stop on his mission until he becomes an NBA champion. Over the course of the past year, Edwards' creativity and playmaking output has truly flourished. We've long known about his abilities as a pure scorer and indomitable athlete, but this evolution in his game is exactly what the Timberwolves franchise needs to make them a legitimate contender for the NBA crown in 2025 and beyond. But what do you think? Will Anthony Edwards complete his mission? Let us know in the comments.